Hello everybody, welcome back to a World of Warship Blitz video, and in this video it is a stats review video for this ship, which is the Tier 8 British Tech Tree battleship, the Monarch. So the Monarch is, I believe, a fictitious ship, or a design ship, or a paper ship. I stand to be corrected, because I think by 1945, I don't know if they're still building battleships. Right, survivability. Let's start just with the stats. So I'm going to be comparing with mostly unupgraded ships. I've got a couple of problems. The Bismarck is fully upgraded and I can't unupgrade it. And the Amagi, for some reason, I seem to have partially upgraded, probably as an accident. So yeah, it won't quite be a complete comparison, but let's go. So survivability is 39,400. The citadel protection is 12.5%. Flooding and fire resistance 15, 13.5 and 15 for torpedo damage reduction. So let's go compare it with, so this has got 3 guns at the front, 6 guns at the front, 2 turrets, 1 turret with 3 guns at the rear. Let's go compare it with something relatively similar. So this has 900 additional hit points. It has 12.5% citadel protection, the same. 22% flooding and fire resistance, which is fantastic. 15% damage reduction, which is higher than the 13.5, and it has torpedo damage reduction of 15%, which is the same. So this is tougher than the Monarch. The Amagi has the fully upgraded hull, so it's got 47,000 hit points, but I suspect it probably base has slightly higher, because I don't think it's going to raise. You're going to get 7,000 hit points out of all those improvements. I don't know, you could. But let's have a look. Citadel protection is 12.5%, the same. Flooding and fire resistance is worse at 12.5% rather than 15. 13.5% same damage reduction, same damage torpedo reduction. So the Monarch is a little bit on the weak side. Let's go have a look at something that we suspect will be relatively weak. 39,800, which is 300 hit points more. 400 hit points more. Citadel protection is the same. Flooding and fire resistance is worse by 2.5%. Damage reduction is the same, and torpedo damage reduction. No, damage reduction is better, and torpedo damage reduction is incredible at 19.5%. So the Gascon, I thought the Gascon was relatively fragile, but the Gascon is not. And I've only just purchased it, so I know it's not upgraded. Right. So the Monarch is on the soft, sort of squishy end of the spectrum. Speed and manoeuvrability, maximum speed 28 knots essentially. 0.07 a knot off 28 knots. 28 knots, 23 seconds to full speed, 5.4 degrees per second turn in the turn, and 14.7 seconds turn time. So let's go with the North Carolina, which is basically 1.5 knots slower. It takes 1 second longer rather than 23. It takes 24 point something to get to full speed. 5.1 degrees per second, so 0.3 degrees slower in the turn. And the turn time is 6.8 rather than 14.7. So basically, it's not as agile and it's not as quick, and it takes a little bit longer to get there. Amagi. Now, the Amagi is not at all agile. 28 knots, so it's 0.15 of a knot faster. Don't have a race, guys, because who's faster on the button will probably be what determines it. 25 seconds to full speed instead of 23. Maximum traverse speed is 4.8 degrees per second, which is not as agile as the Monarch by about 0.6. That's probably the worst performer. Turn time 16.8 instead of 14.7, I believe. So 2 seconds worse turn time. The Bismarck, right, the Bismarck's max speed, because the upgrades that I've given it don't help with this sort of thing. It's a fair comparison. 28 knots, 28.34, just 0.41 knots faster. Time to full speed is a whopping 31 seconds as opposed to 24, so 7 seconds slower to get there. Maximum traverse speed 5.2 degrees per second instead of 5.4, so that's pretty agile really for a tier 8 battleship. Turn time 15.3 degrees per second, which is about a second worse than the Monarch. So the Monarch so far is the most agile by far. That's the Richelieu. Right. Although we could compare it with that, but we're comparing like for like, tech tree for tech tree. So this is fast, 30 knots, 30.15 knots, the fastest of the lot, and I think it even gets a speed boost. Time full speed is 24.29 seconds, 1 second slower, but much faster when it's there, so probably makes up the difference. 5.3 rather than 5.4 degrees per second, so not quite as agile, but pretty close, except the turn time is a couple of seconds faster, so that 12.6 rather than 14.7 means that this is the most agile ship of the tier 8 tech tree, although the Monarch is second, so the Monarch is the softest, it's the second most agile. Right, guns. Guns. It's got 9 guns and 2 times 3 guns in the front turrets, 1 times 3 guns in the rear turrets. Let's go compare like for like, but let's get some stats down before we forget what we're talking about. 20 seconds, 20.5 seconds reload time. Range is 12.5 kilometers, 1080 HE damage, 16% fire chance. Can't beat that. Probably can't beat that. 1450 main AP damage. So there's a bit of a gap between HE and AP, far more than perhaps some of the lower tier ships where it's a bit closer together. Right, North Carolina, also 9 guns. It has 406 rather than 381 millimeter. 22 seconds, that's a second and a half longer to reload. 0.3 kilometer further range. Way less HE damage at, well, actually it's 100 less at 980 rather than 1080. 13% fire chance rather than 16%. And you want to be firing AP anyway because at 1640 rather than 1450, you are looking at a couple of hundred extra damage per shell when they land. And the 5 degrees per second turret traverse, 250% citadel damage rate is the same as the Monarch. Now the guns guy, so the other ones have 9 guns, this has 10. 410 rather than, was it 405, 406? Okay, then 410 millimeter guns. 21 seconds reload time, so 0.5 of a second slower, but still a second faster than the North Carolina. 12.72 kilometer range, which is longer than the Monarch and longer than the North Carolina again. 1,000 HE damage, so the Monarch still tops out on the HE. 13% fire chance, the Monarch still tops out on the HE there. 1580 AP damage, so less than the North Carolina, more guns, faster reload. The other stats are the same, the citadel damage rate and the turret traverse speed are the same. So this probably has, the North Carolina has the strongest for damage, this has the best range, good reload. The Monarch still is the king of the HE spammers. Now the Bismarck is going to blow all of them out of the water because basically it's been upgraded. Now the 19 seconds is because it's got 15-inch guns, so 380 millimeters. It's got only 8 of them rather than the 9. It's got 14.28 kilometer range. It probably started out in the 12s. Okay, the damage, even fully upgraded, only 1,000, 968. HE damage, 9% fire chance is pathetic. 1770 AP damage. So I'm not sure where that would have started out. It probably would have started out a bit lower than the North Carolina, and a lot of that is upgrades. Citadel damage rate 250% and 5 degrees per second turret traverse. Going with the Gascon is 21 second reload, which I think is about half a second slower. So the Monarch has the fastest reload. It has 900 HE damage, 12% fire chance. That's still about 180 lower than the Monarch and 4% lower for fire chance. Main AP damage is exactly the same at 1450, and the other stats, as we've basically seen with the other ships, seem to be pretty standard. So the Monarch is the fastest reloading. It has the best HE, but good luck with the AP. It's probably the most mediocre along with the Gascon. But the Gascon gets rapid reload, actually, before we go too much further. So does this. Right, that's going to be fun. And it's going to be funded for destroyers because basically that rapid reload is a great way to switch between AP and HE. And at that sort of damage and that sort of fire chance, you know what? HE's looking pretty good on the ship. Which means there's going to be some nice one-shot kills. Right, secondary guns. Important to note here that there are 8 times 2 of them. 16, so probably 8 per side. It looks like those are the turrets. Single turrets. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Let's go into the sunlit side. Yep, so those little turrets on the side. Let's go find this again. Okay, no auto secondaries. So even I think the Nelson and the Warspite get auto secondaries. So, anyway, the auto secondaries are, and I've used this term many times before, more proximity detection than anything else. When they cook off, you know something's close. They even try and shoot through islands. It's really like a very, very low-grade sonar that can't detect torpedoes. Okay, right, so 134mm, 7-second reload, 5.1 kilometre range, which doesn't seem too good, 300 HE damage, which seems pretty ordinary, 2% fire chance, and there are other stats that I don't care about. Right, North Carolina, because your ship can certainly not outturn the guns, the secondary guns. Right, North Carolina, 6-second reload, more damage, 1 second faster reload, same range, and a 1% higher fire chance. So, and more of them. So basically, the North Carolina is a better secondary gunship than the Monarch. Let's go have a look at the Amagi. The Amagi doesn't have auto secondaries either. It's got 16 times 1 rather than 8 times 2. Is that what it's got, 8 times 2? Yeah. 16 times 1, 7.5 second reload, slightly slower but longer range by 0.3 of a kilometre, which actually matters, but way better damage, a third better again, or quarter better. Anyway, basically 100 more, 4% chance of starting a fire, same number overall of secondaries, which is 16 of them, 2 times 8 is 16 anyway, so basically superior secondaries, and you'd put up with a slower reload. So the Monarch secondaries are nothing to write home about. The Bismarck, of course, has got the elite bonus, so its secondaries are going to be insane. It hasn't got many of them, but boy, those secondaries that it has got, 6.9 kilometres, 7.38 second reload, 6 times 2, which is 12, and nearly 600 damage. And it's got auto secondaries, so away you go. Gascon is got auto secondaries. It's got 3 times 3 secondaries, so yeah, okay then. It's got 6-inch secondaries, so it's got 5.7 kilometre range rather than 5.4. 9-second reload, which is really slow. To be fair, I think that the Amagi has better secondaries than this. Faster reload, not quite the same range, but pretty much the same damage and same fire chance. So yeah, it's so the Monarch secondaries are nothing to write home about, and the Gascon gets automatic secondaries. So I would probably put the Monarch ahead of the Gascon because of the number of secondaries. Rather than anything else, let's go have a look at some AA. So 192 large AA, 190 small AA, 3.9, 1.8. As usual, the surface detection I will just touch on. It has long surface detection. It shoots slightly larger than its surface detection, but basically battleships are meant to be shooting. So as soon as you open fire, that's it. So let's have a look at the AA. It's got nowhere near the AA. It's got slightly longer range, large AA, so 3.9 rather than 3.6. But this has obviously eats it for dinner. 190 versus 320. and 192 small AA versus 244. So 192, it's 190, sorry, but 192 the other way. So basically this is all over it for AA. 11.2 kilometre surface detection, so the Monarch is stealthy, but stealthy in a battleship isn't an attribute that really I'd bank on. This has even better AA, not quite the same range. It's got the same 192 large AA, 0.3 of a kilometre less range, which means the planes are flying through the Monarch's AA for longer. 205, which is 15 more small AA, so pretty comparable to be honest. The Bismarck is fully upgraded, and its AA is obviously slightly better. Slightly shorter range, slightly larger caliber, more large caliber AA, but then again that's fully upgraded. And even interestingly fully upgraded, the small caliber AA is less than the Monarch. So yeah, this ship is the least equipped to deal with aircraft. For the Gascon, 243 for 3.78 kilometres, so yeah, a bit better, but the small caliber AA is a bit worse. So I suspect once fully upgraded, the Monarch, oh actually no, these are both unupgraded ships. So it does have better AA, but yeah, it's not significantly better. 11 kilometre range, so the Monarch therefore comes in as probably the weakest, and there's not much in it. From a toughness perspective, probably the most manoeuvrable apart from the Gascon. Guns, definitely the best from an HE perspective. Middle of the pack from an AP perspective, although basically has the best reload, but you know, they're all pretty close. Secondary guns, probably the weakest of the secondary guns apart from the Gascon, only because the Gascon doesn't have that many. Yeah, so that is the ship. It's got strengths, it's got weaknesses. Let's go have a look and see what you can get if you fully upgrade it. You can get plus 10% torpedo damage reduction, which is always welcome, or the one I would go for, and this is my personal favourite, is main battery reload time and main battery traverse speed. That plus 7% is very useful because at tier 8 for the equipment choices, you actually get something that you can reasonably well use, which is, so normally I go for main battery, try and get things on target, but at tier 8 it changes, and I'll go for the dispersion improvement. Here I'd probably go for fire reduction, deck protection modification, and here I would probably go for steering gear modification, which is a much better way of dealing with torpedoes than torpedo defense, because basically if the torpedo never hits you to start with, yeah, you're better off. And it is the most agile of the battleship, so probably worth keeping. Let's go have a look at this. So I've looked at the armory. The details are that it has rapid reload. So basically it increases gun reload speed by 30 for 20 seconds, as 2 of them, but if you get the right captain skill, you can get a 3rd one. And you can even extend that slightly if you get high enough captain, which I think you probably do for a ship like this, tier 8. Camouflage, we might as well sort this out while we're here. Very standard battleship camouflage, plus 4% hit points, plus 4% main battery firing range, minus 4% main battery shell dispersion, and torpedo reduction of 6%. So let's get that out of the way while we're here, because basically that's what it looks like. It's, well, actually, there's more striking camos out there. Go figure. Final thing to check is, what do you get? Well, from a mission perspective, 15 battles, win 15 battles, shouldn't be too hard. Set a fire 160 times. That's actually a little bit harder. I mean, you'll get there, it has a good fire chance, but it's only 16%, 20-second reload, 9 guns, and battleship dispersion, often firing at range. It's going to take you a while to get that 160. You'll get there quickly enough, but yeah. 35 enemy cruisers. Damn, I want to be shooting destroyers with this, but anyway. And 25 enemy battleships. So, I mean, reasonable missions. So there we go. That is the Monarch, the Tier 8 British tech tree battleship which is available through the Blitz, a Blitz event, early access event, that's what I should call it. And but yeah, at the end of the current Blitz Pass month will become available as a tech tree item, and you'll be able to grind your way there, or on my main account where I have 812,000 free XP, I'll just be able to free XP my way there. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Whets your appetite for a bit of HE fun with the British Tier 8 battleship, the Monarch. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.